The video lecture on the SQL environment. So in introducing SQL, you really need to understand how this fits into a database management system. So you have to understand that the database management system itself needs to keep track of a lot of information. We're not just talking about the user data, but it needs to keep track of information about itself. I've spoken about this in previous videos and referred to it as the metadata. So the metadata, or the data about the data and the data about the database management system, is all stored in what's known as a catalog. So there's this huge repository of data about the data and about users and about the database, all stored in what's known as a catalog. That catalog is broken down into things known as schemas. So schemas are structures that contain descriptions of objects created by a user, right? So there is a back-end schema associated with the database management system typically, which has most of the metadata. And then there will be a schema associated with objects created by users. There is not going to be a schema for every user of the database. Most users of a database management system are simply going to be updating data that as it exists in objects that were created by someone else. So the only users that would have a schema are users that actually have the ability to create objects. Obviously you at this point are the database creator, so you would have the ability to create a schema. We're not going to get into that. This is mostly in the larger database management systems. We're going to be using Microsoft Access and pre-created databases for most of our work. But just understand that. So you don't have a schema unless you've created objects. And that could be simply creating users, other users. You could be a security person and all you do is create other users. Well, other users, as far as the database is concerned, are objects in the database. So that person's going to have a schema. Okay? Then there are three different kinds of language within SQL. There's data definition language, and just by the title of that, these are commands that actually do all the creation and manipulating of objects. Data definition language actually creates the database. It creates tables. It creates users. It establishes constraints amongst within tables and amongst tables. So the data definition language is the language used to create things. You've seen that already in the create table statement. Data manipulation language is what we're going to be spending most of our time on. This is how to query the database. How many students are taking this course this semester, that kind of stuff. That's inserting data, that's deleting data, and that's querying data. Right? So three different things going on there, and also appending data. And then there's data control language. Data control language is where the security comes in. This is the data control language that controls the database, sets up privileges, it commits data. Committing data is basically I'm making a change, I'm adding data, I'm deleting data. Most database management systems require you to actually commit those changes, commit to those changes. And that is data control language. Let's just take a look at how this fits in schematically with everything. So we've got users out there sitting at a terminal. They're writing programs or they're using programs that submit SQL queries to the database management system. The database management system will then determine what catalog what database management system data is required. So in this case, we have two different catalogs. Right, we've got a catalog called DevC, and we've got a catalog for ProdC. So this development environment and there's production environment, and the users can query off of either. Right, so if I just want to mess around with data and see what would happen if I changed everybody's grades to an A, I could do that in the development environment. Certainly wouldn't do that in the production environment. And this is described by the it says SQL 200N because that's just any of the most recent standards. The last one, as far as the textbook is concerned, was 2003. There more than likely will be another one fairly soon. So that's just, again, a quick overview of the SQL environment.